Hello, I'm Bailey Leacher, and today I will be talking about some of the NFL new coaches that have been hired. I know this is a little bit late. Some of these coaching hirings have not been official yet. A few of these, I think two of them, but it's been pretty much determined who will be which coaches will be hired. I'm going to be talking about and giving my thoughts and my grades on the coaching hirings overall. So to start off, the Packers hired. Were one of the only team this season that fired their head coach before the regular season started and ended when they fired Mike McCarthy. The Packers, they hired Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator Matt LaFleur. He's a pretty young head coach or offensive coordinator, relatively young, and definitely I think a lot of these head coaches are pretty young. These new head coaches coming in, I mean, Sean McVay has definitely, he's the big probably the leader of this new movement where we see a lot of 30-year-old something coaches. And overall, I think this is a decent hiring. But obviously, I think the key for this is to basically for the Packers is they can't put their eggs all in one basket. With Aaron Rodgers. So we'll just see how these two coaches gel, and that's to be determined. I say I'd give this grade just a B. Hopefully there's a little more consistency. I think Tennessee was kind of up and down on offense, but I think that Marcus Mariota was kind of on and off and was hurt this year. So Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, but I think the big key for the Packers going into next year is Aaron Rodgers has to have a better year, and I think that whole team needs to be a lot better. And with Aaron Rodgers, it's possible. The next head coach that was hired, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, after they fired Dirk Cotter, they hired Bruce Arians, who came out of retirement after 1 year as a broadcaster. He came out of retirement, and he's going to be going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think overall this is a pretty good hiring. I think definitely for Jameis Winston, this is definitely a hire because Bruce Arians is he was the one that drafted Tyrann Mathieu, who was troubled coming out of LSU after being dismissed in his final year before he declared for the draft. I think Bruce Arians, definitely a little bit older coach. But I think it's good for Jameis Winston, and this is really, if this does not work out for Jameis Winston this year, he's gone from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and there's a likely chance he might never play in the NFL again with his troubled history. But I say this is a B plus for Tampa Bay just because of the direction they're going in. And Tampa Bay has always been, I feel like the last few years has been a team that could surprise people, but that's not been the case. But Tampa Bay, they are hiring Bruce Arians. He took a lot of his former coordinators that were with him in Arizona, such as Harold Goodwin. He'll be the offensive coordinator, and Todd Bowles, who got fired from the Jets as a head coach, he'll be defensive coordinator there. So I give this grade a B plus for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Arizona Cardinals probably made the gutsiest hiring out of all these coaches. After going 3-13 with Steve Wilson, he became the 10th head coach to be one and done. The Cardinals hired Cliff Kingsbury, excuse me. He was known at Texas Tech for being. He coached 5 years there, was under 500. Patrick Mahomes was the quarterback for a couple of those years. So I think that's probably his noteworthy. He was slated to be the USC offensive coordinator before walking out of that job and becoming the head coach for the Arizona Cardinals. Hopefully he can fix Josh Rosen if he decides to keep him, considering that there was a previous interview that he did back in the fall where he talked about wanting to draft Kyler Murray. But I think if he keeps Josh Rosen, this is a good head coach for him to work under. The Cardinals are going to have a lot of cap space. They have the number 1 overall draft pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, and the Cardinals got some good news from a team leadership standpoint. Larry Fitzgerald will be returning for his 16th NFL season. I get this grade. I think it's kind of back and forth. I give it a B minus because I think overall, it's kind of, for a head coach that's never coached in the NFL, I think the Cardinals wanted an offensive mind, and I think that's what they got. But it's definitely risky basically with his inexperience coaching on the professional level. But I think the Cardinals wanted an offensive mind, and they want somebody that's dynamic like him. So I would have given it because of that, and considering they needed to get an offensive uh, head coach after being one of the worst offenses in the NFL, if not the worst. They definitely need that, so I think they definitely filled that hole. And we'll see. This could either be terrible or it could be the next Sean McVay, but we'll see what happens there. The Cleveland Browns, they decided to let go of Greg Williams, who did pretty well as an interim head coach, but they decided to keep who was their quarterback coach, Freddie Kitchens. They elevated him to the head coach. I think that this is a pretty. I'd give this an A minus overall because I think it's a good hire for Cleveland because they like the work that he did with Baker Mayfield in his rookie year. Baker was one of the best rookies last year, and he's definitely going to be this season. He'll definitely be one of a candidate for offensive rookie of the year. And I was kind of surprised they didn't keep Greg Williams. I would have kept him there. They played very well under him. And Greg Williams they just decided not to keep him. He is now going to be the defensive coordinator for the New York Jets. It looks like, but I think the Browns is a good hire. I think they like what they did what Freddie Kitchens did with Baker Mayfield and the rest of that offense. And Cleveland's going into next season with something they haven't had in a long time, which is hope and expectations that they could be a playoff team next year. So the Broncos fired Vance Joseph. He went off to be the defensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals. The Broncos decided to hire another defensive-minded head coach, a defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears, Vic Fangio, if I'm saying that right or wrong. Sorry about that. But yeah, they're going to hire him. I think the Broncos, they've always been known for defense. I think it's really the question for them is definitely going to be what do they do with quarterback? Do they decide to roll the Case Keenum, go after somebody else? I think that's definitely going to be a big question mark. And I think for the Broncos, it's going to be pretty difficult for them to be a playoff team for the first time since Super Bowl 50, excuse me. Considering that they're in the division with the Kansas City Chiefs led by Patrick Mahomes and the Chargers with Philip Rivers and that great defense. But we'll see what happens there. But I think definitely the big key for the Broncos heading forward is fixing that offense, and we'll see if a defensive-minded coach can do that. The New York Jets decided to hire Adam Gase, who was the head coach for the Miami Dolphins. Adam Gase was pretty mediocre, was kind of up and down, kind of basically just average as a head coach. For the Miami Dolphins, but it's not all his fault considering Ryan Tannehill was hurt a lot, and also just the talent, just unfortunate, Jay Ajayi was traded. I think the Jets, I think it's just kind of a middle of the road. I'd give this grade a C. But just because it's kind of there, I think it was probably good for them to to move on from Todd Bowles, considering Sam Darnold. He was kind of up and down, but I think his potential is still there, and I think Sam Darnold could be great. And we'll just see what Adam Gase is gonna do. But I think it's really a C. If you ask me, it's not a terrible hiring. Someone with some head coaching experience, unlike some of these other ones, except for maybe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I think this is an okay hiring. It's not terrible, but it's not good or great either. So these next two head coaches are not official, but the Miami Dolphins are going to be hiring Brian Flores. If I'm saying that name correct, he's the defensive play caller for the New England Patriots. Obviously this is not official yet because the New England Patriots are going to be in the Super Bowl, so he still has to coach that game. But he'll be the next head coach. It's looking like he'll be the next head coach for the Miami Dolphins. I give this a C minus just because it seems like a lot of these, with the exception of maybe Bill O'Brien, who's been kind of okay at best. They've been a playoff team like once or twice with Houston, but a lot of the coaches under Bill Belichick have just not been great. The Eric Manginis, Matt Patricia didn't look that great. Josh McDaniels, when he was the Denver Broncos head coach, was not, ask Denver fans, that didn't work out well. But, I give this a C minus just because, there's not a lot of trust for coaches under Bill Belichick, coordinators under Bill Belichick to be successful. And then the Cincinnati Bengals, who finally, after a decade and a half, moved on from Marvin Lewis. This is not official yet because he's coaching for a Super Bowl team. The quarterback coach for the LA Rams, Zach Taylor, is looking like he will be the next head coach for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think definitely he'll have a huge task to know what they want to do in the future. Cincinnati were 4-1 this season before injuries and just bad coaching just kind of ruined their season. They got to see what they want to do. If the team can stay healthy, I think that there's going to be question marks if Andy Dalton's the quarterback going forward. I mean, you have some great pieces on your offense like AJ Green and Joe Mixon. There's pieces for the Bengals to churn it around, but we'll see if he can churn this around. I give this a C plus. A lot of my grades are not as below as C, or not below C minuses, but there's some potential there. It's not great, but it's another head coach that doesn't have that much experience. What do you think of the head coach hirings? Which ones are the best? Which ones are the worst? Leave your comments below in the comments section. As always, follow me on Twitter at BaileyLeisure96. Click like if you like the video, and subscribe if you like the content on my channel. And check out next week for my Super Bowl 53, even though I'm not really paying attention to the Super Bowl, considering the conference championship games, what happened there. I'll talk about that in my next video, but check out for my Super Bowl 53 preview and predictions video coming out next week, but just prior to the Super Bowl. So thanks everybody for watching, and I will see you next week.